Now here is the data as we have it in our data set again. Now let's have a look at a different pipeline stage that allows us to transform every document instead of grouping multiple together. And that will be the project stage. Now we already know projection from the find method. Well, as an aggregate stage, project became more powerful. So what can project do for us? Let's now start simple and not have any other stage. Let's say we don't do any filtering. We just want to transform every document. Then we can use the project stage, and as all stages, the value for $project here is simply a document where you, configure that stage, so to say. And in its most simple form, project works in the same way as the projection works in the find method. So you can, for example, say, I don't want to have the ID by setting it to 0 here. You could say, I only want to have the gender, I want to have the name field and location and email, but I want to reformat some of these fields. So including gender is simple, we just add a 1. But let's say the name should be different now. Let's say the name should be one field instead of this embedded document. And this is something we can easily do with this project stage. We can add new fields here, which is a cool feature. And we could add the full name field, and that full name field could then simply be created on the fly based on the nested name first and name last fields. Now, how would that work? There is a special operator we can use, and you find that in the official docs. A full list to all the operators can be found in an article after this lecture. So you can use a special operator. So you pass an object, first of all, to full name because we're going to perform an operation. And then here we'll use concat. Concat, $concat allows you to concatenate two strings. And you simply pass an array here which contains the two strings. Now you could hard-code some values in here, like hello world. That is also possible. You can work with hard-coded data. If I now copy that, you see every person is named hello world concatenated together like this. Also note that there is no white space in between. This is of course something you can do, but most likely this is not the result you want to have. So instead what we want to do is we want to refer to the first and last keys here in the name field. So what we can do for that is we can use a special syntax again. In a string, and the quotation marks are important, with a $sign, we can refer to name first. Now, the $sign here simply tells MongoDB that this is no hard-coded text, which it should take like this, but that this refers to a field of the incoming document and that it should take the value of that field instead. And in this case, it's just an embedded field. It could also be a normal field, a non-embedded one. So we can have the first name. Then let's say we add a white space in between. And then here we use name last to refer to this name here. If we now take this code and we run that, we indeed get back documents, the same amount of documents as before, by the way, because unlike group, project does not group multiple documents together. It just transforms every single document. And therefore, we get the same amount of documents, but with a totally different data. And the interesting part, of course, is that we can not just include and exclude data, but that we can even add new fields with hard-coded values if we wanted to, or in our case, with a derived value derived from data that was in the document before. Now, let's say we also want to make sure that the first and last names start with uppercase characters. And we can do that too with the projection phase. I'll just restructure this real quick to make it a bit easier to read. We'll have to make sure to move these up later. So right now we just concatenate our first and last names. But of course we could transform these first and last names too before we concatenate them. So we can pass more complex expressions to concatenate essentially. The first name can be an expression described in a document, and so can the last name. So in the first name here, we can use $2upper, which is another operator offered by MongoDB. And $2upper can simply receive the field which it should turn into uppercase. So name first. Now it's the same syntax I need for the last element, which we concatenate together, just add its name last here. Now to upper, this expression here and this expression, these will return strings. So concatenate will still work on 3 strings, just that the first and the last one are also, well, transformed by us. Let me now move these 2 methods up and let's copy that. If we now run our aggregation, well, everything is uppercase now. Certainly a change, but what if we only want to work with the first characters? Well, then we drill into that further. Now we don't just run to upper on the entire first name or entire last name. Instead, we want to run it on just the first character of these names. And then we want to append the rest of the word in, well, the normal casing. For this, the thing which I transform with toUpper is the result of yet another expression wrapped into a document. You see a pattern here. All these expressions are always wrapped into documents. Now there I use another operator, the substr CP operator, which returns the substring of, well, a string, so a part of a string. Substring CP takes an array. The first argument is the string, so here I now use name first. The second argument is the starting character of your substring. This will be 0 because strings are 0 indexed, so this is the first character of the string. And then it asks you for how many characters should be included in the substring, and that should be 1 here, so just the first character. Now this will turn the first character of the name into an uppercase character. Of course, we don't just want to have the first character of the name, we also want to have the other characters, just not converted to uppercase. So I will add an additional element to the concat array, and that should now be the rest of the first name. Because here we're extracting the first character, and we're converting it to uppercase. Now we need the rest of that name. For that, I'll again use my substring CP operator here. Because I need a substring of name first, I just need the other, well, half or, well, the rest of it. And therefore I start at character 1. But now, of course, I need to find out how many elements I need. And for that, I need to dynamically derive how long the name is. And we can do this with another expression. And it's not uncommon to have nested and more complex stages like this one. So don't worry if this looks very frightening. Obviously, this is a more complex transformation we're doing here, but I find it super important for you to understand how you can work with all these expressions and operators, especially in the project phase where you do a lot of transformations typically. So now, here, what I want to do is, I want to use another operator, the subtract operator, which simply returns the difference of 2 numbers. Now, why do I need that? Because the numbers are passed in an array here, because I need to find out the length of my name, and then subtract 1 off that, because we start after the first character in this substring. So here, I will now use another operator, strlen CP, which calculates the length of a string, and there I point at name first again. And then I subtract 1 from that. So this is the second element in the subtract array. Okay, so this is quite a complex operation. But in the end, what I do here is I simply retrieve the rest of the name by starting after the first character. And then I find out how long that name is if I, well, reduce it by that 1 character. So if I subtract that 1 starting character. Now, previously we had Gideon van Drongelen. Let's now repeat this for the last name and see if we have Gideon van Drongelen where only the first character is an uppercase character. So let me grab this entire code and let's replace this code with it. And now we just need to replace name first with name last in all 3 places. And that should be it. Let's now move pretty up and aggregate up and copy that entire command. Let's move over and execute it. And this looks much better. Now we have only the first characters of each name converted to uppercase characters, and you learned a lot about operators and how you typically work with them and combine them, especially in the project phase, which is all about transforming data.